Hello, welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. I'm Musgrove. Hope you guys are all doing well. If you're joining us on the YouTube channel, please do hit thumbs up, hit subscribe as well. If you're on the audio only platform, thank you as always. Do leave us a rating and review. Later on in the show, I will be bringing you my end of season merit marks for Newcastle United players. Who is my player of the season? Who is at the bottom of the list and needs to improve in the next campaign? Will he even get the chance to do so? I want you guys to get involved. Get into the comments and let me know what you think about my player ratings for the season just gone. But first off, some transfer news. Yes, ladies and gents, Newcastle United have confirmed a new arrival to the club, officially on July the 1st, but he's been pictured in the new strip. He's spoken to the club website, and it's not a name that I think many of you will have heard other than over the last few weeks and months, because really this move has been Newcastle's worst kept secret. We all knew he was joining. We were just waiting for official confirmation, and now we have it. It is Antonio Cordero from Malaga, left winger, 18 years of age. Even at that young age, he's already played 60 times for Malaga, some of it in a top flight, registering 7 goals and 9 assists. People you speak to, things you read, this man is tipped for the very, very top, and reportedly has rejected Barcelona and Real Madrid to head to Tyneside. I would love to know if that's true, and if it is, the sales pitch that he has been given. To turn down Barcelona and Real Madrid, anybody to do that, that is some move. To do it as a Spaniard is even bigger. I mean, imagine you guys as Newcastle United fans turning down the opportunity to play for Newcastle United. But he is reportedly turned down Real Madrid and Barcelona to come to Newcastle United. It is a massive coup from what people say, from those who have watched him closely, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds for Cadero at Newcastle United. The club have confirmed that he will head out on loan, most likely in the summer, and that's good because, as I say, there 60 first team appearances in all competitions for Malaga, and what we don't want with this chap is for him to fall off that program of first team football, competitive first team action, into the under-21 cycle where obviously the level isn't as great. He needs to go on loan. He's been linked to Ajax. He's been linked with a return to La Liga. Wherever it is, we want to see him playing week in, week out and continuing his development. And hopefully in a year's time, we're talking about him breaking into the Newcastle United first team. I don't think there's an opportunity for him to do that this time around. That's why the club have been open and straight to the point in his official announcement of him coming to Newcastle that he will head out on loan. It's expected, so there don't be any surprises when he does move to wherever it will be in the summer, and it's one to keep a close eye on. Speaking to the club website, Cadero said, "It's truly an honor to be here, truly a pleasure. I am a person who likes to aspire high. Why not come to one of the best places in the world to do it? It's a big step, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm happy to do it and have a great desire to get going already." Young man, clearly got high levels of ambitions, aspirations. He's confident as well in his own ability. There's an interview on the club website, a video. I recommend you go and watch it. There's obviously more said than is read out in this statement, but he talks about his own ability and his strengths, and he talks about picking the final pass, shooting on goal, driving the team forward. And he's clearly very confident in how he can impact a game. So this is one to watch. Hopefully, wherever he goes in the summer, he can continue on the fantastic path that he's already been on, and one that persuaded Newcastle United to pull out all the stops to get him. Now, Paul Mitchell, who we know is leaving at the end of this month, is also quoted in the official announcement. He says, "Antonio is an exciting talent. We're delighted to bring him to Newcastle United amid interest in Spain and across Europe. He has lots of potential, and the next phase of his development will be for the club to select a loan move that will challenge him and build on his experience." Now, Obviously, looking back on some of the loan moves some of the players have had in recent times, I'm thinking Kjol didn't have the best times in Scotland and in Holland. We needed to go a lot better for Cadero. There have been some successes. Joe White, MK Dons, has played quite a few games. Obviously, we'll be aiming for a much higher level when it comes to Cadero going out. And that's why the link to Ajax is so intriguing and so enticing, because you want him to go to a club like that, a league where you feel he could really excel. Ajax finished second, 1 point behind PSV in the Dutch top flight. So hopefully he can go there and have a similar successful loan spell in the Dutch league to what Yakuba Minter did before, of course, he moved on to Brighton. So let me know in the comments where you'd like to see Cadero go. And if you've watched him as well, let me know what you think of him. And do you agree with the people I've spoken to who say he's a very exciting talent? Paul Mitchell said it there. Big things expected of him. And some other news as well, away from the men's game. It is the announcement of the retirement of Rachel Furness, who is was a Newcastle United midfielder for the women's side. She very early on in her career played for Newcastle United, spending 4 years with the club before heading off and having an absolute stellar career. She played in the Women's Super League. She played for Liverpool and Bristol City, also for Reading, Tottenham and Sunderland as well, before returning to Newcastle United last summer. Made 18 appearances for Becky Langley's side, scoring 2 goals, and she scored in her final home game at Kingston Park against Birmingham City. What a way to round off her career. She's been doing a bit of media for the BBC, which she's very, very good at. She's also a Northern Irish international as well. 95 caps for Northern Ireland, scoring a record-breaking 38 goals. And she's the all-time leading scorer across both the women's and men's national teams, which is a massive accolade. I mean, you just have to applaud the career she's had, 23 years in the game. And what a way to see out your career at Newcastle United. And she says, on announcing her retirement, returning to my childhood club was a dream come true. The little girl who once had a dream, never imagined she would get to live it. This city, these fans, they will always have my heart. So good luck to Rachel and whatever comes next. I imagine it will be sticking with some media work, but she's had a fantastic end to her career at Newcastle United, and will now go on into the season looking to replace her. Let me know if you've seen Rachel play over the last season and your thoughts on her retirement. Right. Let's get into the main subject of this video, this episode, and it is merit marks for the season just gone. Before I do that, I just want to say a huge thanks to Saily, a new sponsor on the podcast. It is a new eSIM service app brought to you by the creators of NordVPN. So if you're going on holiday, this is the app for you guys. You can choose from several affordable eSIM data plans in over 200 destinations. With a Saily eSIM, you'll always have a connection wherever needed. You download it once. It's affordable. You've got the choice between global and regional plans. You'll save time. You'll avoid scams. You'll protect your privacy. You'll save on your mobile data. And there's also 24/7 support available. If you've ever been lost abroad or badly needed an internet connection with no Wi-Fi spot in sight, you'll understand what a difference a local eSIM card can make. And this is it. So click the link in the podcast description box to get a discount offer on your eSIM provided by Saily. Thank you very much for their support. Right, let's get into the merit marks. I know lots of people have done this, but I felt I just wanted to do it because it's always an interesting debate. I've shared my merit marks already with Aaron Stokes in the office, and already we've clashed. I suspect a lot of us watching and listening, a lot of you guys will also disagree with some of my marks. But that's the beauty of football and debate. So I'll run through from Nick Pope all the way up to the attackers, running through my reasons for giving them whatever mark I have jotted down here. So we'll start with Nick Pope. I've given him an 8 out of 10. 9 clean sheets this season. Made some absolutely crucial saves. He was really important in that defeat to Everton on the final day of the season. But looking back throughout the season, some really, really important saves. The ones that spring to mind, Bernardo Silva against Man City. Fantastic save there. There was one against James Maddison against Spurs up here at St James's Park as well. Some really crucial stops. And that's where he's at his best, is stopping goals heading to the back of the net. We know about his distribution, not very good. But when it comes to stopping people scoring, he tends to be one of the best in the Premier League. So for me, 8 out of 10 for Nick Pope. Big question whether he'll be Newcastle's number one come next season. Links to James Trafford, but other teams, including Chelsea, are now also linked. And James Trafford's going to cost a lot more money than he would have done last summer. I can see Nick Pope still being Newcastle's number one next season. Just take the hit on his distribution and just back yourself that he's good enough, because he's just the best shot stopper in the Premier League. Martin Dubravka next. I've gone for a 7. Now, he only made 10 appearances for Newcastle United, but he kept 5 clean sheets in that time and won 7 of those 10 appearances. He was absolutely superb when Nick Pope was ruled out with injury, because there was some initial fear, if you remember, when that news dropped about Pope's injury, and you're thinking, my God, who's going to replace him? And a lot of people actually said, give Demos a go. The Greek keeper can't be that bad. He's played for Benfica in the Champions League. He can't be that bad, surely. It was Martin Dubravka in the end, who you have to remember as well, had to bounce back and really win the support of a lot of supporters after his loan move to Manchester United, which backfired. But he came in, and I have to say he was brilliant. I think he surprised most people with his performances, so much so that when it came to Nick Pope returning from injury, a lot of people were massively disappointed that Martin Dubravka was dropped to the bench. And it was a bit brutal in many ways. He signed a contract extension. We think it was on better terms, because there was Saudi interest in him in January, and Eddie Howe wanted to keep him. Obviously, he'd just come off the back of that tremendous run of games. He signed that new extension or that new deal or whatever you want to describe it as, and then was dropped by Eddie Howe and didn't return to the side. But massive input, massive input. You cannot overstate how important Martin Dubravka was. He surprised a lot of people, the majority of people, when Nick Pope was out injured, and 7 wins out of 10 appearances, 5 clean sheets as well. I mean, the stats speak for themselves. Absolutely superb and crucial input into Newcastle, getting to the Champions League and to the League Cup final as well. Tino Livramento next, gone for 8 out of 10, 45 appearances in all competitions. Tremendous on the right. Started to look a little bit shaky, and there were a few questions over his defensive attributes. And then he was thrown onto the left-hand side with Lewis Hall getting injured, and people were very, very concerned about that left-hand side. Indifferent start, you would say, in that first game against West Ham, but from that moment on, absolutely excelled. And he has just been so good. Man City have now been linked to him, but he's not going anywhere unless Man City want to offer the best part of 150 million. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. He is that good. He is that good. He's brilliant. Fantastic going forward. Close control, just glides when he goes forward. Defensively getting better and better with every game that goes by. Superb for me. And to take on that responsibility of playing at left back, replacing someone who, had they not been injured, probably would have been player of the season. It was a huge weight on his shoulders, and he came through it with flying colours. You've got to remember as well the time this all happened, a couple of weeks before the League Cup final. He rose to the challenge and was absolutely fantastic, and long may that continue. He's in the under-21 squad for England. Be really interested to see how that goes, the European Championships. He's likely to start, and he will hopefully come back pre-season with a winner's medal. Kieran Trippier. Now, he didn't really get much of an opportunity in the early part of the season. He's someone who benefited from Lewis Hall's injury. He came in at that West Ham game, and from then on in, started the majority of those games. That experience, absolutely crucial in the League Cup final, where he was absolutely brilliant. And the amount of people who kind of groaned, hands over their eyes when they saw him pull up early in the first half against Liverpool at Wembley, because he'd just been fantastic. He really had been one of the best players on the pitch. Thankfully, he got through, managed to get through the game and helped Newcastle United to lift the League Cup trophy. Absolutely brilliant from Kieran Trippier. He's found a kind of fourth wind, if you will. 34 certainly surprised me. The way he's performed, you will know that I advocated for his exit in the last window and the window before that. Surprised me, and he's been absolutely fantastic. And I hope he stays at Newcastle United. I really do. I think that experience will be key in the season to come with the Champions League, and obviously wanting to go strong in the Cups and in the Premier League. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for Kieran Trippier. Emil Kraft. Going to give Emil Kraft a 5, not because he's done anything wrong, just because he really hasn't had the chance to impress or really affect Newcastle United season. He's a very capable backup to the likes of Team Livramento and Kieran Trippier. A very important squad player. He'll have a huge role to play next season, but hasn't done anything that I think warrants above a 5 for me. Fabian Schär, I've gone for a 7 here. I think him and Dan Burn absolutely superb. But did Fabian Schär excel more than a 7 out of 10? Not for me. I thought he was very sturdy, very capable. We know what he can do with his passing ability, scores goals as well. And he's going to have a big chance to be first choice next season. Although I think if Newcastle do go out and get this right-sided centre-back, I think he'll find himself on the bench. But important season for him that he's just had, played a crucial role in every aspect of getting Newcastle into the Champions League and in that cup final as well. For me, though, 7 out of 10. Next on the list is Dan Burn, and for me, he gets 9 out of 10. And if anyone's going to claim player of the season, they're going to have to beat Dan Burn, because for me, he is one of those most certainly in the conversation. What a campaign he has had. I'll admit, I'll hold my hands up. I did not see it coming at all. I even thought there was a chance that when Lloyd Kelly came in on a free from Bournemouth, that it would be him starting at left-sided centre-back with the absence of Sven Botman, of course, through injury. But that arrival didn't scare Dan Burn. He took his opportunity. And it's really interesting when we talk about taking opportunities, because there's a few players in this list, like Dan Burn, who for one reason or another have been presented with an opportunity to really stake a claim for first team football in this Newcastle United side. And for the majority of those players, they've let themselves down and they haven't seized that opportunity. Dan Burn has done. And he is going to be, I think, first choice left-sided centre-back to begin with for next season. As the games roll on, the weeks roll on, and the schedule gets busier and busier, I think Sven Botman will come in, because his quality is just, it's unquestionable. But Dan Burn has earned the right to battle Botman for that spot and stands a good chance of starting the season as left-sided centre-back. But wow, if we talk about Dan Burn's moments, the one that we have to start with is the goal against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final. What a superb header. What a superb performance from him. And if you think about the players who've got the better of Dan Burn this season, off the top of my head, I can't think of too many. Beto for Everton on the final day of the season is one that stands out, but that's probably because it is the last game we watched. But, off the top of my head, and maybe you can tell me in the comments, can't think of too many strikers, too many forwards who've given Dan Burn too much of a test that he's really, really struggled. That's testament to him and the coaching staff as well. He is 32 and he is losing pace. Age catches up to us all, but he just seems at times absolutely unpassable. He's actually 33. He turned 33 on the 9th of May. He just seems unpassable, though. I mean, obviously, he's got the height and he's great in the air and he wins a lot of aerial duels, but he just seems to be able to stretch out a long leg and stop a cross coming in or a block. He's just been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So for me, 9 out of 10, and long may that continue into next season. Next up, Sven Botman. Didn't play too many games. Returned really to the fold against Spurs, 2-1 win. And then he was in the team, obviously, for the semi-finals against Arsenal. And then he played, I think it was against Wolves, and then ended up missing the final. We were all gutted about that. Hasn't played, as I say, too many games. And you think, well, has he done enough to really make an impact? But I actually think he has. I think his role in that semi-final against Arsenal, so important. Obviously, he played in the 4 at the back down at the Emirates because Schär was missing. He then plays in a 5 at St James's Park, which was just a tactical masterclass from Eddie Howe. and then played towards the end of the season as well. Was he fully fit? I don't know. I think maybe, especially towards the end of the season, it was needs must to get Newcastle United over the line. But he was so important in that final run in. He just looks. People call him a Rolls Royce, and you can see why. Great in the air. He's got that pace about him. He's got that positional sense. He's got that sixth sense, really. And he can't half pick a pass. I mean, I know we celebrate Fabian Schär's passing ability, but Botman can't half spray a pass across the field. We have to hope that the ACL injury that he's suffered with, and he suffered another knee injury since as well, he's overcome that. He makes it through pre-season. He can have a good rest, get the pre-season, and come back fighting for his place alongside Dan Burn. But for me, 7 out of 10, simply because the impact during the League Cup run to the final cannot be understated. On to Lewis Hall. And if Lewis Hall had not been injured, had not picked up that ankle injury, he would have been, I think, player of the season. And as it is, he did so well before that injury that he gets an 8 out of 10 for me. That's how well he did. And he missed from the Brighton FA Cup game all the way to the end of the season. So that's a lot of games to miss. And yet I truly believe what he did before that got him an 8 out of 10. He played 27 times for Newcastle United, and in that he got 13 wins, 4 assists, 1,313 passes, 110 crosses. You know, he's big in the tackle success rate of 71%. So, you know, had a role in 7 clean sheets. He's just such an exciting player. And what's more exciting is the fact that, all being well, on the right-hand side, you've got Tino Livramento, and on the left-hand side, you've got Lewis Hall, both very, very young players who, especially last season, played like they are so much older, like they've been around for so long. And if Newcastle United can keep them fit and keep them at the club, then they've got something special on their hands. But for me, Lewis Hall, who just excelled with every passing game, with every game that went by, he just got better and better and better. And I remember thinking, this has to end at some point. You know, this has to end. And it just didn't. Okay, against Brentford, didn't have the best of games. I remember Brian and Burn were really giving him a tough time in that game. That Liverpool game as well didn't have the best of outcomes, but you get that. But for the large part of those 27 games he played in the Premier League, there was no one better. No one better. And long may that continue when he returns to first team action next season. We'll stick with the left and we'll go with Anthony Gordon next. And I've gone with a 7 out of 10 for him, 9 goals this season. And he was absolutely instrumental between November and January. That winning run Newcastle United went on, that run to Wembley as well. I know he's had a tough end to this season. Obviously, got sent off against Brighton in the FA Cup. He missed the League Cup final. He then picked up an injury with England, so couldn't get back into the side. He also had Harvey Barnes and Preston in that position anyway. Was then given away back in and did absolutely nothing in the remaining weeks of the season. So much so that some people saying, please do cash in on him. And actually, me and John Gibson have recorded an episode that'll go out on Friday morning, all about Anthony Gordon and his future at Newcastle United, because me and John both think he will remain at Newcastle United and should do. He's that important to them. But do watch out for that. But 7 out of 10 for Anthony Gordon, largely based on what he did prior to that sending off against Brighton. You remove those goals, you remove his performances, Newcastle United don't get to the final and don't finish 5th. Harvey Barnes next also gets a 7. And I think if you put Harvey Barnes' performance after Gordon's suspension and injury against Brighton and onwards, you put that performance and stats and goals and assists, and you pair that up with what Gordon achieved before Brighton, and you made it into one player, you'd have some player on your hands, because he scored 9 goals as well. And he really stepped up to the plate, because naturally there was so much concern about missing Gordon for the final. Like, what are we going to do? He's our most important player. You know, you go up against Trent and he's going to give Trent a really hard time of it. As it was, we had nothing to worry about. Barnes brilliant, absolutely superb. Gets the assist in the game against West Ham, goes into the final, has a part to play in Isak's goal, which was the second goal of the afternoon. Goes on to score quite a few goals after the final to really help Newcastle United cement their place in the top five. Had probably a little bit of a quiet end to the season, but I remember looking back at that Brighton game, the Chelsea game as well, the Everton game. There were games when Newcastle United were below par, and it was Harvey Barnes that looked the most threatening out of anybody. So I think he deserves a lot of plaudits. I think he shut a lot of people up. And for me, he gets a 7 out of 10 for his impact after coming in for Anthony Gordon post Brighton. Jacob Murphy, I mean, his stats are just scary when you think about it. And again, like Dan Burn, something that nobody saw coming. And I'm just a big fan of it. You know, he's living the Geordie dream. He's living the dream of every Newcastle United fan, and he's making the most of it. 8 goals, 35 appearances last season, and he was again another crucial reason Newcastle United have done so well this season. Scored some important goals, some really important assists. I mean, went through that spell of just supplying cross after cross for Alexander Isak. He got 12 assists in the Premier League, and he scored some crackers of goals. Remember the goal against Crystal Palace from a very wide angle. That one stands out, but he's just living his best life. Such a good character to have in and around the squad, in and around the first team. And I'm intrigued to see what he does next season. We know Newcastle United are in the market for a right winger. He's going to push whoever that is for that first team spot. But Jacob Murphy deserves a lot of praise because I don't think anyone expected him to have the season he has done. He's had no competition for the best part of 7-8 months. Even when Miguel Almiron was here, it was clear that Eddie Howe just didn't want to use him, didn't fancy him. He'd served his purpose. So Murphy really had a free shot at it. And most people in that position might kind of take it for granted, and their levels of performance might just drop, but not Murphy. He just grew and just got better and better and consistent as well. Really consistent. I know some of his performances weren't great, and if you're watching the overall game, careless in possession, careless passing, but what he did do was score and create, and he just needed that one moment, and it's that one moment that wins you games. Now, towards the end of the season, he fills in at right wing back, and you could see that's just not for him. I think a few more weeks of that, and he'd been downgraded from an 8, but thankfully the season ended, and we didn't have to witness him at right wing back for too long because it was clear he just wasn't comfortable in that position. We know where he's good at, and that's, bombing down the right as a winger. But some really important goals, and Jacob Murphy, 8 out of 10, brilliant. Miguel Almiron, as I mentioned, I'm just going to go in with a 5 because didn't play that often. I think he played 14 times before he left to rejoin Atlanta over in the MLS. So 5 for him. William Asula, I've gone with a 6. Again, we didn't see him too often. I think 19 appearances this season. But what I did see left me impressed. Goal against Ipswich. I thought when he came on against Everton, he looked exciting. He's unpredictable. He's raw. He's a little bit all over the place. A little bit like Miguel Almiron sometimes with his head down as he runs. He needs to get his head up and pick the right pass. But I think he made enough impact over the season to warrant a 6. I mean, superb header, as I mentioned there, against Ipswich. Obviously played his part against Wimbledon in the League Cup as well. And against Birmingham in the FA Cup, what a bruising game that was down at St Andrews, and he did not look out of place at all. So big season for him next season. I'm hoping he'll get more first-team action given how packed the schedule will be. 6 out of 10 for William Asula. Sean Longstaff, again, a man who didn't really get much game time at all, and especially towards the end of last season. His career's over at Newcastle as far as I'm concerned. I think the only thing that might save him is the fact that Newcastle United need to meet that homegrown quota rule for the Champions League. That might mean he stays so Newcastle United can tick that box. Otherwise, I can see him going off to Leeds or a Burnley, and he's still got something to offer a lower league Premier League side. But he's not going to break into Newcastle United's first team and hold down a place. I mean, he had a lot of games in the early part of this season before Tonali took over that position. And a lot of people thought Newcastle United were in such a good run of form because it was like kind of a Sean Longstaff reason behind it. You take him out the side, Newcastle United lose. I don't think that was the case. Great servant for the club, but you can see with his lack of game time, especially towards the end of the season, that it's over him, I think, in Newcastle United. So he gets a 5 out of 10 for me. Bruno next, the captain. And he had a tremendous end of the season for me. Really did. Stood up when he needed to be counted. Led like a leader. Wore the armband with pride. Scored some very important goals. None less than the goal against Chelsea, which, because I think Newcastle United could have easily thrown away those 2 points. What a costly 2 points it would have been if they'd conceded the Chelsea lead on, which I think they would have done. I mean, Chelsea was superb in that second half. They were down to 10 men and they were playing like the one with the man advantage. So when Bruno steps up and hits that, takes a little deflection into the back of the net, the relief was just nearly indescribable to be quite honest with you. He was, to see that ball at the back of the net. And I just thought, when he was needed to really show what he's capable of in terms of his ability and his leadership, he stood up to be counted. And if I was rewarding player of the season based on the last kind of 3 or 4 weeks of the season, it would go to Bruno for me. As it is, he's going in at number 8. I can't wait to see him back next season, leading Newcastle United into the Champions League. And just on that, actually, he's travelled the most distance over the season and was the most fouled as well. 47 appearances, 5 goals for Bruno, 8 out of 10. Sandro Tonali next. And I think he's the only man who can beat Dan Burn in the race, or whatever you want to call it, the list and the rankings, whatever, for player of the season. Sandro Tonali, because Newcastle's season kind of reset when he dropped into that deeper role. He is just one of the best players I've ever seen in Newcastle United. He's absolutely superb. I love watching him. The energy on him, the engine that he's got up and down the pitch, the strength, the ability to pick a pass, to fly into a challenge, the stamina, the speed. There was a game against, I want to say Manchester United at home. I might be wrong on it, but what I remember from it is him running 30, 40 yards from the edge of the box that he was attacking back to his own box nearly, or midway through his own half, to win a challenge. And I just thought, wow, that commitment for your team in that moment is shown to everyone. And he didn't look like he'd ran a single yard. He just got back up and got on with it. The stamina in that guy, something special. He's proved to be a bargain. He's bounced back from that ban, obviously. Sandro Tonali, for me, I think is player of the season. 9.5 for him. Narrowly beats Dan Burn, but he is the foundation of that Newcastle United side. And look, we talk about goals, and obviously Alexander Isak, we'll get on to, scored a boatload of them. Murphy, as you mentioned, scored loads as well. But away from the stats and away from the goals, if we're talking about someone who pulls the strings, who is the man in the middle, who is the core to it, it's Sandro Tonali. And he makes everything else work in Newcastle United's favour. He is the one pulling the strings. He is the man who is leading the charge on the pitch. And he plays well. Everybody else plays well. I cannot wait to see him in the Champions. I cannot wait to see him over the next couple of years playing for Newcastle United. So excited to see him as he just gets better and better, because he will do. What a season for Sandro Tonali. Joe Linton, 37 appearances, 4 goals. We've got him down as an 8 out of 10. I think there's not many players like him in the Premier League at all. His strength is just unrivaled. He will knock anyone into next week that gets in the win. I think he does rattle players. I think players fear him when they see him chasing them down. I think they do fear that. There was an example against Southampton, the first game of the season at home, and there was a young player who I remember thinking he's scared. He turns around and he sees Joe Linton just rocketing towards him, and he ends up losing the ball, and Joe Linton wins it with just brute force. He's such an important player for Newcastle United. The strength is so important to where Newcastle United, well, in that success Newcastle United want to have. Big blow when they lost him. Really, really big blow. I think Newcastle United would have qualified for the Champions League prior to the last day of the season had Joe Linton been fit, because Bruno and Tonali, really, really important. But if they get injured or suspended, you have players who can do the same thing. Might not necessarily be to the same level, but you have players who can do the same thing as them two. Whereas with Joe Linton, I don't think Newcastle have got anyone like him at all. It's his strength, which is his key attribute, and you mix that with his athleticism. They haven't got anyone like him. I genuinely don't think there's anyone like him in the Premier League. So to have him missing for that final running was just it was really frustrating. And fingers crossed he can bounce back ahead of pre-season as well. Joe Willock, I was surprised to read actually played 41 times for Newcastle United. He's getting a 5. And I spoke earlier about players taking their opportunities and not seizing it. He's one of them. I mean, when Joe Linton was injured, Joe Willock was put in ahead of Lewis Miley. Most of the fans wanted Lewis Miley in. It was given to Joe Willock, and he did absolutely nothing. And that was a massive frustration. It remains a big frustration for me, because Joe Willock is a very, very talented player. Really, really is. He's got so much ability, but there's only so many times that we can say, his time will come, or next season, or, he's been injured, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he has suffered injury concerns or injury. He has suffered injuries this season, but we're running out of time for Joe Willock. We really, really are. And I was so disappointed when he didn't take that opportunity that was handed to him. And for me, he's behind Lewis Miley in the pecking order. I don't know what you guys think, but for me, if we're talking about who gets on ahead or who starts, I know they're different players, but for me, Lewis Miley's ahead of Joe Willock, and Joe Willock can only have himself to blame for not seizing the opportunity given to him. So a 5 out of 10 for me. Lewis Miley gets a 5 out of 10 as well, simply because of the lack of game time. I mean, he started one game all season in the Premier League, and that was against Nottingham Forest, which he scored. Other than that, you've got 35 minutes here, 37 minutes there. Not a lot of game time for Lewis Miley. It's a big, big summer for him as well. I think Newcastle United will do everything they can to keep him here at the club, to persuade him that going out on loan isn't as beneficial as being in and around this first team. He needs game time, though. He needs minutes. And if Newcastle United can't provide that to him, then I think they have to get him out on loan, because otherwise his development is going to be absolutely stunted. But given the amount of games coming up, there's going to be plenty of opportunity, I think. 5 out of 10, hopefully with a lot more to come next season. Alexander Isak, right. I've gone for 8 out of 10, and it would have been more, probably closer to a 10, had he not gone off the boil a little bit towards the end of the season. And it sounds strange saying that, because he scored against Brighton and had some important goals in the final kind of 5-6 games of the season. But he misses the Arsenal. There's nothing against Chelsea, and there's nothing against Everton. And for me, that's why he's on an 8. I couldn't put him any lower than an 8, because he's scored 27 goals in 42 games. And when was the last time we've seen a striker do that for Newcastle United? He's been absolutely superb. And without his goals, Newcastle United would not be in the Champions League, and probably wouldn't have won the Carabao Cup final. Of course, he scored in the final. He is a tremendous player. I think he has struggled with the lack of competition around him in the squad. I think he struggled with the knowledge that it's kind of him and only him, because you can't rely on Callum Wilson, and Anthony Gordon can't really play up top, and William Masula is not ready. I think that hasn't helped. I think Newcastle need to go out and get a striker in this summer. And if you do that, and also get someone on the right wing who can just provide maybe a bit more service than Jacob Murphy. I know 8 assists, but we want a bit more. then I think they'll see Alexander Isak absolutely flourish next season. I really, really do, and break that 30-goal barrier. I mean, that's how strong his form was. And we were talking about him getting into the lower 30s when it comes to goals in all competitions. As it was, we said that, and then his goals kind of dried up. But 27 goals is still a massive, massive haul. And again, he's a player who's just going to get better and better for Newcastle United. He's not going anywhere either. Don't believe any of the rumours you hear or anything you read. He'll be staying at Newcastle United, and he will be absolutely instrumental going into next season and that Champions League campaign. Finally, Mr. Callum Wilson. And this one I've changed a few times because I don't want to sound too harsh. But I'll be honest with you. On the paper in front of me, I've got 3 out of 10 written, which is probably a little bit harsh. 20 appearances, 1 goal. He missed 29 games last season through injury, which is just not good enough. And one of the reasons why, for me, you've got just to let him go on a free. Don't bother signing him on a pay-as-you-play deal. Not for me. Let him go. Let him go on a free transfer. Get his wages, invest them elsewhere, and get Alexander Isak a real, true competitor in that position. Because Wilson might start at the beginning of the season, but I can guarantee there will be another injury if Newcastle United do indeed keep him on. 3 out of 10 might be a little bit harsh, but I think when he's come on, or he started against Arsenal, he's come off the bench a few times towards the end of the last season. What's he really done? He's had 1 shot I can remember of any note, and in fact, I say that I was going to say it against Brighton, wasn't it? Forced a save against Brighton later on, but other than that, he's not really done much to warrant, I think, anything more than a 3. If we're being generous, maybe bump it up to a 4, but certainly no more than a 5. But you know what? I'm sticking with a 3, to be honest. Callum, you've been brilliant. 49 goals for Newcastle United, but your time has come to say goodbye. Don't think I've missed anyone out, have I? I mean, we could do Eddie Howe. We could rank Eddie Howe. It would be a 10. I mean, I haven't given a 10 out to anyone. So let's give Eddie Howe a 10. What a miracle he's done. I don't need to go over that. I said that in a couple of episodes ago about how good he's been, what a good job he's done, massive achievement with the squad that he's got, recovered from his illness as well to come back and just get Newcastle over the line in terms of Champions League qualification. So Eddie Howe, for me, we give him a 10 out of 10. I think he does deserve 10 out of 10 for the season that he's just led Newcastle United to. Fantastic win, Champions League qualification. Can't wait to see what they do in the transfer window and how Eddie Howe can build a squad capable of hopefully continuing to win more silverware, as well as having a fantastic time of it in Europe's Elite Cup competition. Well, let me know your thoughts on my player rankings for the season just gone. Sandro Tonali gets it with a 9.5. Dan Burn second with a 9. They've got a few players on 8, and Eddie Howe 10 out of 10. Really intrigued to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys very soon.